r/AskReddit by Planet Reddit. Reddit. What is your worst experience of waking up after a one-night stand? I was studying abroad for a semester in Brazil and the university had one night a week where their students would take the exchange students out. Usually it would be a club or bar. And sometimes just drinking on the beach. This night we were at a club. And for some reason I indulged myself a lot more than usual. My first blackout. I woke up the next morning in a strange room. Strange bed. With a cute Brazilian girl beside me. She wakes up and I quickly realize she didn't speak any English. This was only a couple weeks in, so my Portuguese was nil to none, to be honest. My wallet was missing. My shirt was ripped. She wanted to go another round that morning, which I did so I could at least remember it this time. Then I realized I was in an area of this city that isn't exactly the safest. Had to break out her computer and use Google Translate to tell her to call me a cab. And then have her loan me money to get back to my dorm. Oh. And replacing credit and debit cards overseas is a breeze. Let me tell you. Moral of the story, doesn't matter. Had sex. Woke up with no memory of each other. Then she began screaming about being late to her grandma's funeral. Dropped her off in a tiny dress, not wearing shoes, still drunk as duck in front of her entire extended family. How can people be in such a hurry and not bother to put shoes on? Did the family look surprised? I'm from New Zealand and white while her and her entire family were Maori. You never want to duck off a big Maori dude, let alone a whole family of big Maori dudes. I drove away very fast without making eye contact. I woke up to his crazy female roommate vacuuming the hallway outside of his room for over an hour. Banging the vacuum into his door over and over again. I guess she was trying to wake us up so I would leave. But we ended up just waking up and having sex while she was vacuuming. She jelly. The roommate was a Roomba. She told me to get up because she had to babysit her granddaughter. First I thought she was joking. She was not. Was she like good looking MILF could possibly have a granddaughter, or like no older than 30? How is this possible? Edit. I know exactly how this is possible. I didn't mean how is this biologically possible. I mean how does this happen given how easy it is to prevent. And yes, it is all social stigma about sex and people no wanting to acknowledge it and conservative values or whatever. Yes, she could have had her first at 14 and her daughter did the same, so she isn't even 30 yet. Really, all of these are rhetorical questions. You have a kid at 16 who has a kid at 16. I know I'd be shocked if someone that young had grandkids. But it's entirely feasible. She told me I could sleep in as she left for work early. Just to lock the door on my way out. Her estranged husband decided to pop over. Notices me in the bed. Naked. Gets pissed off. Rants about how she's a terrible person. And OBTW, did she mention she was married and has a kid? I start get dressed. As I'm putting my shoes on, husband picks up TV VCR combo and is about to leave. I say, don't steal her TV. She's going to think I did it. He did not seem to care. See, this is why I don't trust people. They might be hiding their TV VCR stealing ex-husband. Was at a local spot a few years back. Met this girl who was pretty hot, according to 10 of my closest cocktails. Anyways. Chill for a bit. Head to her house. Smackad as and fall asleep. I woke up and noticed a book bag. etc. School books. Ask her what she's studying and she tells me she goes to the local HS. I'm die a little inside and leave. I ran into her a few weeks later and it turns out she was ducking with me cause she needed me out of the house before her roommates got home. Not me but my flatmate, he struck gold whilst suitably plastered. He woke up the next day. Pleased with himself as he realized he was not alone. Still suitably enamored. He offered to cook her breakfast. Tackling the short walk to the shop for bacon and eggs by himself. Alas. All was not well, and after 2 hours of knocking on doors he realized he had totally forgotten where she lived. He returned home to me and our stinking flat where he prepared breakfast for us both with a heavy heart and the bluest of balls. Update. I just remembered another twist to this story. He phoned me while he was walking to the shop and told me that he couldn't remember whether her name was, say, either Emma or Anna. Then phoned me again in a panic sometime later whilst looking for her house, asking what 2 names he'd told me she might be called, having forgotten both of those as well. Oh, how many times this must have happened with the girl guy feeling spurned. People just got lost. All Fozz's dads that walked out for a pack of cigarettes years ago and forgot the address. Or maybe once he had ducked off she wouldn't answer the door. Job done. She was the oldest I had been with. I woke up to her holding a glass of water and some medicine for my hangover. I thought I was really weirded out when my clothes were folded at the end of the bed till I passed her kids who had 5-10 years on me. I could not for the life of me find my pants. I guess late at night I spilled a drink on myself and she put them in her dryer. I couldn't sneak out. To this day she's got your pants nailed to the wall beside the shirt of some lumberjack and a pair of just stained boxers. That chick was the hunter. And you were just another trophy. Nothing says good morning like a toddler tugging on the blankets saying, "Mommy, who is that in your bed?" Try this one. Is that our new dad? Is that the daddy you said you'd have for the new baby? I met a girl at a show that my band was playing at. Went back to her place. Had sex 3 or 4 times that night. Then fell asleep at probably 7 AM. I wake up at about 9 AM. Completely disoriented. And hear her boyfriend kissing her saying "Looked like you guys had fun last night." He was apparently watching us the entire time. I didn't even know she had a roommate. Was he dressed up as Superman? I bet he watched from the closest. 2. I went back to this girl's place hammered. I remember it kind of looking like a church. Turns out it was. This girl interned at my local campus church, where she lived in a kind of hidden 2nd floor apartment. Basically, I had to ramble through a walk of shame the next morning, Sunday morning, past bunch of people attending morning mass. I was in Indonesia. Woke up and couldn't find the condom. Never saw her again. So no clue if there's a little Asian version of me running around in East Asia. I thought this one was going to go. I woke up in Indonesia. I do not remember going to Indonesia. I went to France by accident once. I'm Norwegian without a sense of direction. Very first time I had sex was very drunk. Woke up and couldn't remember if I wore a condom and don't remember finishing. She couldn't remember where I finished either, so we assumed the worst. That I dumped inside her. 3 weeks later she told me she was late. That was the longest month of my life. Edit. She wasn't pregnant. We ended up married and have a son now. The ending was not what I expected. Me either, my friend. Me either. She left her wallet open. She was not 18. I ran. We slept in her bed, which was a cot in the kitchen. Clue number 1 to stop drinking so heavily. She woke me up to introduce me to her 3 children. Clue number 2. They were sleeping in the same bed because the youngest had shat the other bed during the night. Clue number 3. The same bed she told me to hide in when there was a knock on the door at 8 AM. Turned out to be her sister. But still. Clue number 4. She then introduced me to her pet lovebirds. She informed me she would be naming one of them after me. Clue number 5. As I am desperately trying to get the duck out of there, she physically removes the stuffed animal from her youngest's arms to give to me to remember her by. Clue Jesus ducking Christ. I did not take the toy from the now crying toddler. If I hadn't needed a drink so badly after that debacle, I might have given sobriety a shot. Edit. Thanks for the gold and appreciation. I actually left a couple things out of the story because I thought it made it sound too unbelievable. Might as well throw them in. Second, we shared a ride back to her place with one of her friends. During the cab ride, I discovered that her friend's son and I went to the same university. Third, this happened on Christmas Eve. Somehow, in my drunken stupor the night before, I had given her my real cell phone number. After I left, she called me 8 times that day. Before noon, I didn't answer. Each message got progressively more aggressive. That's pretty much the complete story. Thanks for reading. Winner. If I hadn't needed a drink so badly after that debacle, I might have given sobriety a shot. Killer quote haha. She was actually really cute and she got up to leave, so I just said lock the door behind you because super hungover. So finally I make my way out of bed and she had taken all of the food in my house along with my blender. Like, how the duck did you pull this off? Was it a nice blender? Define nice. It blended things and didn't leak, so it was a pretty awesome blender. She peed my whole bed with me in it. Edit 1. She slept in the peed bed without waking up. I moved to the carpet after the golden shower occurred. It was awkward the next day before she was given the boot out the door. Edit 2. Holy shit. Posted that before work and just got back to Reddit now. Who would have known getting a golden shower would result in getting gold? Edit 3. No, I didn't ask her to do it. Her name was not Michelle. Her name will not be mentioned like Voldemort. Had a ducking crazy one night stand right after HS with a teacher's pet girl who I thought always hated me. Was still at my parents' place, so I snuck her in. In the morning my dad came right on into my room to grab my keys to move my car for whatever reason. I was totally naked. Half covered. And the girl was tits up, still asleep. Uncovered. The look I shared with my dad in that moment was kind of like, good work boy and you are in so much trouble. I had to blanket up and take my keys downstairs where he was waiting. He put a lock on the liquor cabinet after that. I also have shared that look with my father. He took my car for a week but took me out for a steak dinner that night. That's my boy. But you broke the rules. Hooked up with a cougar from the bar at which I worked. Woke up the next morning to sounds coming from the kitchen. She says it's her son. For some reason she also mentions he's starting a new job that day. I say a brief hello to him as I leave the house. Guess who showed up at my work for training later that day? Edit. Since I keep getting asked. Lol. It was the son that showed up. I had to train him. Edit 2. I think this is now my highest rated comment, and of course it's about ducking a future co-worker's mother. For some reason she also mentions he's starting a new job that day. She knew. I should have mentioned I was working 2 jobs at the time. The bar was my night job. She had no idea where I worked during the day. My day job was where her son showed up. I wake up to him saying shit. My dad wasn't supposed to come home so early. I had just thought he lived with roommates. He tells me to jump in his closet. I'm fully nude and my clothes are in the living room. I start to argue but he insists, and so I get in there and hear them having small talk for almost an hour. I realize I really have to pee. And they just drag on and I'm dancing around. And then the guy I slept with left for work. And I can hear the dad making breakfast and just settling in. I panic. How am I gonna get my clothes? Duck my clothes. I'll use his clothes. So I take the stuff in the closet, all I found were shirts. I ducking ran for my life full speed through the house with sex hair and a long shirt to my car. The dad yelled, "What the damn hell, who are you? Holy shit. How could he just leave you there?" Duck it. At that point I would have strolled out. Grabbed my clothes. Told the dad I spent the night with his son the night before. And casually left. If the guy's just gonna bail on you, then duck him. Drunken one-nighter with ex-wife. She was seeing someone at the time, who is a really good guy. When I got my thoughts together I was probably more sick to my stomach out of grief than the hangover. We were having a birthday party for our daughter and she hung around cleaning up and playing with her. After the girl went to bed we had friends over that turned into a few beers, then a few shots. Then some cuddling, sleeping together. Then the awkward morning after. We didn't say a word as I helped her gathered her things and she left as quick as she could. Decided never to drink around her again. Ex-sex is great though. The rage is gone but they still remember how you like to do things. It's comfortable. I would say that very much depends on the ex. And the circumstances involved in becoming exes. First day on holiday in Prague. Met this girl at a bar and went back to hers as you do. Woke up the next morning and realized I didn't remember where I was staying. She told me to get a tram to the city center and I might find it from there. Problem is I didn't know what the city center looked like either, so I winged it, and apparently I must have some homing pigeon genes in me because I chose one direction and before I knew it I was back at where I was staying. Thought I was gonna die in that place. She woke up and said she wanted to marry me and have kids. Well, don't leave us hanging. Did you guys get married or what? I ducked her again the next week, then I told her I couldn't spiritually connect with her. She somehow took it well but was pretty lost for words. I had never had a one night stand before. I met some guy at a party and was feeling adventurous. Went back to his room and talked until 4 AM. One of the topics was sexual fantasies. We shared ours, his. No surprise. Being two girls at once. Mine being some light bondage. We had sex. He wanted to tie me up but I felt uncomfortable since I didn't know him. In the morning, I walked back to my dorm and slept off the rest of the morning. Later in the day, that guy's dorm was having a barbecue so I walked back over there with a friend. When I walked in, every single guy there put up his arms crossed at the wrist in a bondage position and started laughing at me. I was completely mortified. Walked home with my friend so freaking confused why this guy would immediately tell everyone our pillow talk. And the thing was, he was a pretty bad lay. That's when you mention that his fantasy was tasting farts or something and causally walk away. Did he mention that our conversation about fantasies ended with him begging me to shit on his face? After a night of binge drinking tequila and being thrown out of no fewer than 3 bars, my new acquaintance decided to get us a ride back to her place by walking out in traffic and getting in the first car that slams on its brakes. I remember a brief moment of clarity and doubt as she was beckoning me from the back seat. But the tequila squashed that. Next thing I know, I'm in one of the strangest apartments I have ever seen. Every inch of wall space is covered in random animal furs and strange objects. I spent a good 15 minutes wandering around the apartment, wondering WTF had happened. I checked the bed 3 times to see if I recognized her but she was just as much a mystery. She was really hot though, thank God. Eventually it started coming back to me about the same time she woke up. She asked if we had sex. I wasn't sure, but judging from the lengthy scratches on my back I said I think we did. She was upset that she didn't remember and wanted a redo. First time a chick demanded a facial from me. So, how's married life now? I bought her breakfast. That was it. I remember she got mad at me for wanting to clean myself off first though. No ducking way. I've heard the other end of this story from my friend who saw a naked guy run out of a U-Haul in north side of Atlanta. I'm going to call him and get stoned. Lol, I so hope this is true. Hooked up with this hot single mom, we'll call her Amy, whom I found out later lived with her grandmother. After scratching each other's itch a few times, Amy and I passed out. I woke up to her lightly shaking me awake, telling me to silence my loud ass phone's alarm. Apparently her grandmother, WTF, didn't want strangers in the house. But it was too late to just walk out. Granny was up, sitting in the living room and bitching about the AC temperature. Amy had to go sit in the living room opposite the view of the hallway so Granny would look at her to talk to her. While I snuck past like a high school senior football player trying not to get caught and shot at by my date's watchdog father. Good times and great adrenaline rush. TLDR, smashed MILF. Ninja'd out past grumpy Granny the next morning. Wiped dong off at my house. Woke up to the girl saying, "You need to leave. Right now." When I flashed a confused face, she showed me her phone and said, "My boyfriend just sent me this." I looked at her phone and saw her boyfriend had sent her a picture of the two of us, lying in bed asleep next to one another, taken from the doorway of her room. Needless to say, I got the duck out of there quick. She left quietly in the morning and I was too hungover to move. I couldn't tell you what she looked like, let alone her name. Eventually I needed to take a leak so I get up, naked, hungover, and point towards the bathroom door. I see a used condom on the carpet but the condom is twitching slightly. My vision is blurry from still being drunk so I stare, trying to figure out if the condom is really moving. Then I see what look like 2 hairs poking out over the condom. These hairs keep moving towards me. Then I see its ugly little head. A cockroach was prodding around in my cum inside a used condom on my floor. My wardrobe has mirrors on the doors and I could see my reflection complete with the roach condom combo and my exhausted, hungover, zombie looking self. I took a year off drinking starting that day. TLDR. Woke up to a cockroach swimming in my cum. I didn't want to tell her she was a rebound of my recent breakup, so I stayed with her and we've been dating for 3 years. Still haven't told her she was a rebound. Tell her in 10 years. It'll be funny then. I woke up thinking I'd had a dream that I had sex. Roll over and there is a dude in my bed. I sit up and see about 3 used condoms on the floor on my bedroom. I poke him awake and ask him to leave. I didn't remember his name. Or how we even got into that situation. A few hours later he adds me on Facebook. He's in a relationship. She's in his profile picture. Safe to say I didn't accept that friendship request and I saw him out the next week and he tried it on again and I just went, "You have a girlfriend? Duck off." I went to a pretty small university and I'd see them walking around with each other. It was so awful. I felt terrible. Edit. I am woman. I know it's ambiguous what my gender is from the above. But I am not a guy. Said it in a few comments, but there are so many thoughts I'd put it up here. Her dad woke me up. Told me his daughter had left the house and asked me to hurry up and leave. I wasn't quite sure what was going on, but I followed his requests and left. I sent the girl a text and told her that I found it strange and kind of rude that she had just left me sleeping in her bed while she went out and met some friends on a Saturday morning. Then I went on and met my friends and we went swimming as I told them about this strange situation. When I got out of the pool I had a missed call from her and a text where she told me that I had peed all over her room during the night. Standing in the bed peeing on the walls and the floor, and she couldn't contact me at all. She told me she had tried to wake me up countless of times during the morning and eventually left because she was all done with me. She was really hot and I am in too much shame to speak to her again. My friend told me this story. That friend of him had a one-night stand while being completely drunk. They both slept naked. The next morning, he wakes up and wants to go to the bathroom. He then notices he shit in that girl's bed while they were both asleep. Now, still completely drunk, he has to think about getting out of that situation smooth. He could have just ran away, but instead he decided to gently push that girl into his shit. He then cleaned himself and left. Just imagine that girl waking up, remembering she had a one-night stand. Then she notices the shit she's lying on and thinks she has to be the one who shat in the bed, and the guy must have ran away in disgust. Sorry for the English. I'm German. He gave her the ol' Minnesota memory foam mattress. The ol' Massachusetts muck and run. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for 3 videos a day.